Basis. You can see a lot of sponsored protests here and there, but those people are not aware. Most of those sponsored protests are not aware of the kind of efforts being made by the Senate to tackle the situation, together with the joint management team of the federal government of Nigeria. There is no father that want to see his child sleep in the night without food, with a stomach rumbling. So we must provide. That's why I said we must not limit our discussion to, oh, we will not import food, we will not do this. Wherever we can find food to put on the table of Nigerians, we shall do so. It's an emergency situation. Like the Senator Lalong pointed out, it's an uncommon situation, which has been exacerbated by many factors, from COVID-19 to insecurity, to the inflation, to even what Senator Abiru pointed out, the ways and means of 30 trillion, so that put so much pressure on the Central Bank of Nigeria and left a very big gap in the financial situation, so that if this government that inherited the situation tries to fill the gap, it means people will not eat, salaries will not be paid, nothing will be done until the gap is filled. We have taken it, and we must move on. We must move on. We must move on. So let us look at the recommendations and see whether they are far-reaching enough. If they are not, the Deputy Senate President, you are presiding. Have you even said a word on this? And then please say something.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as you commended.
And I must say that unverified report has it that each of the state governments in the last few months have received additional 30 billion from the Federal Inland Revenue Service outside their normal allocations, from the Federation account, outside their normal allocations, to assist them in ameliorating the food situation. So we believe that every state government should utilize the funds so received towards ensuring that food is available in the country. So the state governments have a lot to do. They are closest to the people. And I don't want to mention local government, because most local governments are controlled by the state governors. So my belief is that if the state governments do what is needful, then the local governments in turn will only be involved in sharing to make sure that these things get to the people. But we must not overlook the fact that Nigerians are not going to be interested in stories. Nigerians want to see action. And that is why I commend the joint committees for the recommendations that they have done, and I commend the senators who are constantly going back home almost every weekend to assist to make sure that you reduce whatever sufferings, but assure the people that this government will do everything possible. That's why I said no policy will be exclusive or excluded. This is an emergency situation. Nigerians want to eat food, and we are going to provide food for them. The government will have no excuse. Despite what we met on ground, COVID-19 used to kill, in Italy alone, up to 4,000 people in a day. Most of them were farmers. They couldn't go back to farm. Ukraine, fighting with Russia. 70% of the world's wheat came from Ukraine. And therefore, those things have stopped. The wheat can no longer come. So you don't expect that not to have impact. And then insecurity in the northwest with the vast land. And then, of course, what was happening in the north central. You don't expect that not to have impact when people could not enter their farms. Then, of course, the ways and means and the borrowing of over 30 trillion without necessary earnings by the CBN vis-a-vis the federal government. And then the global economic situation, where even United Kingdom has announced recession. So I think people need to be patient with government, but rather look at what we are doing as a Senate and as a National Assembly. We cannot sit back and allow our people to be hungry. And so we must do everything. If what we are producing right now is not sufficient, we can't sit back and say, oh, no importation by the private sector. no importation. If we need to even look at the issue of closure of borders, we should do so, if that will assist us to make sure that food is available. Because even now, with the little you have, tons and tons of food are being taken across the borders every night. Yes, at the moment, the CFA is stronger than the Naira. So people are rushing to go and sell their food products in CFA and not in Naira. So we are going to look at every issue. And that is why I applaud the Senate, I applaud the Joint Committee, and I'm saying if the recommendations are not far enough, we will do so. And thereafter, we'll still have a small committee of leadership to go further and discuss with Mr. President to make sure that everything that we need to do, we do so to make sure that Nigerians are happy. Because they voted for us, they don't want excuses despite the global economic recession. All they want is to see food on their table, and food we shall give to them. Security we must give to them. I also join you to commend the security services for the reduction in crime across the board. And I also mentioned in our closed session the other day, we were happy to hear that almost all of those who caused insecurity in Abuja, including the killers of that young lady they called Nebena, have all been apprehended and are in detention. So a lot of things are getting improved, and we must continue to improve and work on it despite what is happening globally. The war in Gaza is also a problem and all that. And then even the war in Sudan and other areas. And then of course, the insecurity in the nations around us, our neighboring places, and then the climate change and all that. But I commend you for this, and let us go straight into the recommendations and see whether they are far-reaching enough. Thank you for what you have done.